And a good morning and good afternoon for Asia Pacific. And I know that there are a couple of people from the US as well. It's bit difficult to greet everyone based on the time. I am Shibu, India coordinator for Gaia Asia Pacific based in Kerala, India. I am your moderator for today. Welcome to Gaia webinar series Learn by Nuggets. Global Alliance for Incineral Alternatives is a worldwide alliance of more than 800 grassroots groups, non-governmental organizations, and individuals in over 90 countries. We envision a just, zero-waste world built on respect for ecological limits and community rights, where people are free from the burden of toxic pollution and resources are sustainably conserved, not burned or dumped. Learn by Nuggets is a webinar series where Gaia members from Asia Pacific region share their insights, experiences, and knowledge with others. You can watch previous episodes at Gaia AP Facebook page and YouTube channel. Please do not forget to like our FB page, Instagram, and follow us on Twitter for regular updates and announcements. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and do not forget to click the bell icon to get timely alerts. There are a lot of exciting things are happening around and you will get notified. Stay safe. This is a pandemic world and we need to keep at ourselves home so that we'll be safe. So welcome all. Today we have two eminent personalities representing two organizations from South Asia. And they are going to talk to you and they're going to share their experiences from their focus area. So let me introduce Ms. Satyarupa Shekhar from Chennai, India. She is Director of Urban Governance at the Citizen, Consumer and Civic Action Group. Its short form is ZAG in Chennai. Her work's main focus is to overcome challenges to access to basic services posed by a lack of data and information while improving transparency and accountability. She has worked with the city government and other public agencies in Chennai to bring a pro-poor and data-driven approach to governance. She has worked with Chennai Corporation on the Chennai Data Portal Project and Zero Waste Chennai initiative. She holds a master's degree in law and economics from the University of Rotterdam, where she was an Erasmus Mundus scholar. She also has a master's in economics from the University of Hyderabad. And warm welcome to you, Satyarupa. And Erasmus Mundus scholar. She also has a master's in economics from. And today, the format of this presentation is that we have our speakers will be talking to you for 15 minutes. And after two presentations, the floor will be open for questions. So let me welcome Satyarupa and please share your thoughts. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Satyarupa Shekhar. Thanks, Shibu, for the introduction, and thank you, Gaia, for hosting this wonderful series, webinar series. What I would like to speak about this morning or evening is a little bit on our experience in developing the Zero Waste Chennai initiative with the city government of Chennai, which is called the Chennai Corporation. And the output, one of the main outputs of this initiative was to create a manual. This had come from the request of the city government itself, the commissioner. And the overall idea was that it provides a roadmap for not just the officials, but residents, other NGOs, and other interested people to get a roadmap of what the city was going to do. The manual really is the first phase, so to speak. So I'm going to only present the basics. The initiative at this point, because of COVID, has been put on hold, but the city government is going to come back and develop it further. So this is really a toolkit to help not just the city government, but also communities that have been interested in setting up zero waste systems in their neighborhoods. What we do start with always is a conversation on what are some of the guiding principles. There are some 10 guiding principles that have been more or less accepted globally. Aside from things like environmental sustainability and the right to life, to live in a healthy and pollution-free environment, there are a few other things that are very specific to waste management. One of them that we have been, that has really grounded this initiative has been to set up a decentralized waste management system, which also talks about uh, extended producer responsibility and polluter pays. So the people who are actually responsible for creating the materials that are left behind in the environment after post-consumption of the product, we need to find a way to bring them into the conversation to make them accountable for the residual waste. Also, there's a waste hierarchy in determining what sort of infrastructure and systems we would like to place to manage the waste. And the other things which are fair labor practices, informal sector inclusion, intergenerational equity. These are things that a lot of environmental protection programs aim to achieve. And these are very deeply embedded in the Zero Waste Chennai initiative. So just to give you an idea of what the initiative was about, we started with a pilot ward. This is one ward. This is actually a realistic picture. It's Ward 100 in Chennai. And what you would see here is basically that we have actually mapped all the streets, and we did a complete enumeration of all the entities there. We found about 16,500 residential entities. We have found bulk waste generators, schools, commercial establishments. And so what we did was categorize these by waste generator types, which are residential, commercial, and institutional, as well as public spaces. These can be open spaces, as well as parks and playgrounds. And what were some of the existing infrastructure that already existed for waste management? So this ward particularly had a couple of mulch pits in the parks, and it had 2 compost centers which were defunct. Once we had actually done the mapping and estimated what sort of waste was being generated, we actually did overlay the routes of the existing collection. Collection of the waste happens from those steps and with tricycles. There were certain gaps. For example, slums. The pink area in the map is a big slum that is not covered in the formal collection system. And on the right side, you see a gray area, which is a railway colony. And so the railways are responsible for managing their own waste. The Chennai Corporation is not responsible. So based on this sort of information, we have actually planned a whole lot of things, including minimizing the distance that these tricycles had to travel once the waste had been collected to where it was deposited. The depositing places are the primary collection centers, which are compost centers or biogas facilities, as well as for the non-biodegradable waste, it is material recovery facilities. So this basically gives an overall picture of what a model ward would look like. So basically what part of the mapping required us to think about was, once the enumeration has been done and we begin to fill in the gaps, where should the waste be directed to? And it's to start with, of course, municipal governments are looking at 3 categories: biodegradable waste, non-biodegradable waste, and hazardous waste. I'll focus on the biodegradable waste to start with. What we did with the Chennai city government was to help them set up not just the infrastructure, but some of the processes by which this waste is managed. So bulk waste generators, for example, were notified to set up their own composting centers within their premises, or to engage service providers who would collect the waste and take it to compost facilities. Similarly, for the non-biodegradable waste, we did suggest that basic collection had to be for paper, plastic, glass, metal, textiles, and rubber, and any of the other categories that can be captured within this. The idea was to keep it very, very simple to start with, because we wanted least resistance for both the city governments as well as the city residents to get on board on this program. A zero waste system obviously can be developed a lot. You can have several categories by which you can segregate waste. We started with these 3. Once the waste has been segregated, there's a secondary sorting that happens at the MRF, the Material Recovery Facility. And then the idea is to send it to a larger facility, which in Chennai are still being built, but these are called resource recovery centers. These aggregate specialized items like plastic, paper, glass, metal, etc., which are then connected to recyclers or producers who can then use this material in making their own products or making new products. These RRCs have equipment that helps them shred or bale or crush things that are more focused or oriented towards the buyer of this material. Biodegradable waste, of course, we had worked with the city government to get hotels, for example, to set up larger biogas facilities. All of the public canteens in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, they're called Amma canteens. This is where subsidized food is provided, highly subsidized. And during COVID, in fact, the government had made this free. So there's a large number of a section of the population that's actually dependent on these canteens. The idea was to actually connect these canteens to biogas facilities so that the waste can be used for cooking the food that's served there. And lastly, garden waste was to be directed to parks, to mulch pits. Bamboo pits had been made for this. Hazardous waste for Chennai and like in a lot of other municipalities is still a problem. We had been fighting with the municipal government and other vested interests against setting up an incinerator. As of now, a lot of the waste, including some of the mixed waste, does go to our existing land dump yard, and which is still unsanitary, and there's a lot of evidence about contamination. But the government has made this first step. So some of the challenges that we actually experienced in this brief period of time when working with the city government was that some of the activities that we were proposing were a little bit ahead of the policies and sometimes very much ahead of the general or the popular understanding of how waste is managed. So of course we had to transition from a centralized system of where waste was just collected and dumped in open spaces, open dump yards. That had to transition to a decentralized ward level system where we did want to incorporate this idea of not in my backyard was no longer acceptable. We were fortunate that the solid waste management rules of 2016 already talked about a lot of these things. But some of the challenges also stemmed from the fact that the solid waste management rules were not very clear about a few things. So for example, we did have a lot of problem around segregation.
Meeting was there. Meeting was there.
Because the SWM rules 2016 actually suggest segregation into dry and wet. But this actually on the ground leads to a lot of confusion in the minds of various waste generators. So something that's very obvious to many of us is actually not very obvious on the ground. So for instance, a lot of our food packets where curries or any liquid items are served, people thought that they were wet because, you know, literally they were wet, but not because the material, which is plastic or a container, should be actually in a dry or should be categorized as plastic. So there were some of these challenges. The other was that though we had a superb commissioner who was very gung-ho about implementing this, making the infrastructure or filling up these infrastructure gaps is not very easy. A lot of municipalities are obviously, their budgets are already stretched and waste is usually not a priority, especially when existing contracts already have taken up the space in the budget. Nonetheless, in Chennai, what we saw was within a matter of 5 months, the number of compost centers went up from 100 odd to about 400, which meant about 2 compost centers per ward. Some of them actually didn't have 2, and some had more. So the distribution was not even. Nonetheless, we did see the willingness of the government to actually set up compost facilities and material recovery facilities. The other major challenge obviously is source segregation. And so this required a lot of communication and education and awareness. We did have a challenge of getting the media to report continuously and to sustain this awareness campaign on just segregation. Obviously, the media would like something new and novel all the time, and they didn't want to come back to source segregation repeatedly. But this is something that the city government has actually put some attention, put a focus on. And they have these communicators who are supposed to visit door to door and explain how waste is segregated. So this was a challenge that we experienced, of course. The other was, of course, I mean, once we've established a partnership with the local government, the processes or how do we monitor results, etc., were a continuous challenge that one has to navigate. And I think anybody who's worked with a government on any project would know that they do like to see quick results. And there are some times when processes just cannot keep up with the need for results. And so this was something that we were challenged with. And of course, monitoring to ensure that the results were being delivered was a challenge. And this is, I think, particularly important because there are quite a few detractors for such a program and such an initiative. And such conflicting interests or partnerships, conflicting to our objectives, may already be in place. And so these are things that I think every organization that's working, either whether it's with the community or whether it's in our own buildings and working with our neighbors, or whether it's working with governments, these are challenges, I suppose, that one always must navigate. And I think what really helped us in this was finding those allies and building those alliances where we have complementing interests and know-how. There are people who were already implementing waste management within their neighborhoods or localities. We had to rope those in. There were people who are already working with the government on other issues, be it resilience or water management. Finding these cross sectoral alliances, building those alliances was actually very helpful in navigating some of these challenges. And of course, CAG being a member of Gaia has greatly benefited from the technical know-how that's already embedded in this movement. The network members already have a lot of experience on this. And I think, I'm not sure how many of the audience members are already members of Gaia, but those who are would know that it's very easy to reach out to your own country coordinator or other countries or those who are coordinating issue areas. And I think those sort of alliances, I think, are very, very important to have before or at least during such a partnership with the government. In the case of Zero Waste Chennai, the alliances that we had are obviously with Gaia, with the Break Free from Plastic movement, some of the other NGOs that already work in this space. Waste Pickers were a group that CAG had already been working with. So these are long-term alliances with whom we've agreed with ideologically, and we've reached out to over the years. Allies were people that we reached out to and we partnered and collaborated with to achieve the specific purposes of this of the Zero Waste City initiative. Of course, our primary partner was the Chennai government, but in addition, there were about 15 resident welfare associations. These are registered bodies. These are bodies that are registered with the city government. And these RWs were very, very helpful in pushing this idea of zero waste as possible within their neighborhoods and also with the government. So there were a lot of conversations that RWAs actually had with their local public officials, representatives of the waste department. For example, many of them would stand on the streets at 5 a.m., at 6 a.m., waiting for collection vehicles to show up and ensuring that waste was collected in a segregated manner. So without some of these allies, of course, it's really not possible to achieve all of the objectives that we had set out to. And overall, I would say that though it was a challenging experience, I think CAG, having set up such an initiative, having pushed for a ban on plastic waste in Tamil Nadu, has actually been able to push the boundaries by which the government is actually thinking about waste. Shifting from a centralized to a decentralized, and then from within decentralized to actually going to a zero waste system in a matter of 4 or 5 years was a tremendous achievement, and it's something that we are hoping that the city government will continue with. This toolkit really stems from groundwork with these all of these actors, and actually can be used by anybody, any community, or any other city, especially in India, because it's really anchored in a lot of the existing policies. So I hope that many of y'all will actually use this, and please feel free to reach out to CAG if there's anything we can do to assist. Thank
you. Thank you, Satyarupa, for your insights. And I think just before you go, I would request you to just give us, to give a kind of a magnitude of the work. Can you just share us the total population of Chennai, Metro Chennai, as well as the ward level population, and maybe the number of people who are working in the field, so that people will get a kind of a idea about where you were. It's not that simple thing.
Right. So the metropolitan area of Chennai, the population is 8 million. The last census, which was 2011, and the next one is due in 2021. Yeah. The 2011 census estimated core city to have about 6.5 million, and we estimate that it would have added another million by next year census. The area is really large. It's about 800 square kilometers, and the area is divided into 200 wards. Each ward is an electoral unit with a councillor, and so 7.5 million by 200 wards. That's the population per ward. The problem with a lot of this data is that government records are also not as updated as we would like them to be, and the kind of data that they need to make some of these decisions are, of course, a little bit outdated. But and I think this is why it's very, very important for civil society organizations like ours to not just look at specific issues, but also some of the cross-sectoral issues like data. Enumeration at the ward level was very important because they actually didn't have an idea of, for example, how many saloons there are in the ward, and how much waste was, hair waste actually was being generated. So these were, of course, some of the interesting insights. I could go on endlessly, and I don't want to take up any more time from Shibu and Mahesh.
Thank you very much. And I think there are a couple of questions for you, but I reserve those questions towards the end of this session. I think, yes, the problem with working with any city, maybe in this, not just in India, or maybe for that matter in India, like in the Indian subcontinent, the issue is that the numbers, especially the data for governance, are never ever complete. And even for the matter of even households, the number of households in many cities, they don't have that number. The exact number, or even the close number, is not available, even shops. The one reason is that our is a kind of a developing economy where everything is dynamic, and every other day there will be a construction happening, maybe a makeshift shop will be coming up. So it's all very loose and very flexible in that sense. And it's very difficult for a government or even for a NGO to just monitor it and then get those numbers. But these numbers are very important when you plan it spatially, and as like on sector, on basic, like the sector wise planning for waste management. So I think this is going to be a big challenge for many of our cities in Indian subcontinent and maybe in South Asia. So that I think organization has to focus and convince our governments to get these things done, or to create some systems to ensure that nobody is missed. It's not just some kind of a unique ID or the Aadhaar card or ration card. There are a lot more other things to do. So thank you once again, Satyarupa. I am sure that there will be more questions for you. That questions will come later. So let me just go to our second presenter, Mahesh. Is my friend. Mahesh Nakarmi. Mr. Mahesh Nakarmi is from Kathmandu, Nepal. And he's one of the members of a regional advisory committee of Gaia Asia Pacific. And Mr. Mahesh Nakarmi is a civil engineer and is founding chairman and executive director of Health, Environment and Climate Action Foundation, Nepal. He's a leading international expert in health, environment and emergency medicine with a focus on disaster management. Mr. Nakarmi pioneered the use of autoclaves to disinfect healthcare waste, a smart solution to the disposal of infectious waste into municipal dumps across Nepal. His system was replicated in 12 big hospitals and 40 small health clinics in Nepal. And I was fortunate enough to be in one of the largest government hospital in Nepal, in Kathmandu. I think the hospital is Bir. To meet Nakarmi there, I met Nakarmi for the first time, and I saw the kind of work they have done for complete biomedical waste management. You can think about in a one institution with that kind of a population. That is a wonderful work. And Nakarmi has presented the model across Asia, and he is very busy around moving place to place to share his knowledge and help the communities and governments and other agencies to build their own models. And he moves around and the world in partnerships with international organizations like World Health Organization and NGOs like Healthcare Without Harm, FHI360, GIZ, UNDP, UIZ, and other international NGOs as well. So beside hospitals, Nakarmi adopted his zero waste model for schools, nunneries, children's home, etc. in Nepal. His work around menstrual hygiene grew out of these projects. His model now includes a component on the safe and environmentally preferable disposal of menstrual hygiene waste. And this is one of the tough challenge for any municipality or any city managing absorbent hygiene waste. It may be sanitary napkins, it can be children, like child diapers, or like incontinence diapers used for the adults. So all these things are it is not being managed just because of the complexity of the product. So Mr. Mahesh Nakarmi is actually now experimenting with managing sanitary napkins using his own method of composting it. And let us hear more from him. And a warm welcome for Mahesh. Mahesh, it's yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Shibu, and let me first. So thank you for this opportunity, Gaia. So I would like to. This is a small research project carried out in first phase with GIZ to see, because it's a negative waste. Sanitary waste is a negative waste till now everywhere in the world. No one is thinking about how to manage the sanitary waste. That's the problem. So first of all, in this pandemic world, I would like to give this beautiful photograph of our Himalayas so that everyone have a good mood, positive mood, and forgetting about Corona, COVID-19, and just if you have a fresh things. So I would like to request you to be safe, and I hope that will help you. This is a greetings from Nepal. There is no pollution at all. Yeah. So I would like to say this is our organization, Health, Environment, Climate Action Foundation is a organized non-profit, non-government organization. It was established long time back. It was before it was a healthcare foundation Nepal's program, but now it's a separate entity and is working in the region on clean, green, climate smart healthcare system in Nepal mainly. And we are talking about environment safe healthcare waste management system based on zero waste principles and zero borne technology. And we are the active member of Gaia, Healthcare Without Harm, Zero Waste International Alliance, and Zero Waste Himalayas, and many more other organizations. So this is a small NGO working in this zero waste management. So I would like to start where we thought sanitary waste is the problem. We started a zero waste project in a nunnery, where we see that they are doing a traditional way of the waste management. They are just going to throw the landfill side. They are in the collection side. You can see by this first two row of the photograph, you can see that how the traditional way is before zero waste project. So when we enter as a zero waste project, we ask them to do the to two category organic, non-organic food, non-organic waste segregation system, and then they collect these waste, those recyclables, and they are selling every month these recyclables and getting some money from out of these recyclables, and they are also doing some handicraft project out of this waste, and they are also you can see a clean green the nunnery is in the last photo of the in the last row. So this it can show that the transformation is possible. But while doing this project, what we found is that in the past, they used to, like you can see the row of the nuns who is carrying out of the nunnery the waste in a like a parade of a ceremony. They're taking out every day like that waste. And later they shouldn't have to take any waste out of the nunnery, very few, maybe once in a month, where residues were only. So the waste would be managed inside the nunnery. While doing this, we found that sanitary waste is a big problem because the nunnery, they have around 100 nuns are staying there in the nunnery, and they have a lot of sanitary waste every week. Every week they have a waste. So, but that was a problem. So we started a first small experiment in that nunnery itself, but it was not in a proper way. So we found that it is possible. Then we came back to study what is the problem of the menstrual waste management in Nepal. So we saw that around 127 million pads were generated every year in the country. It's a huge if in Nepal, but if it is in India or other bigger countries, you can see what the volume is. So every month, 10.5 million pads are generated and even not 100% menstruating girls and women are using these things at the moment. So this study shows that this much fat is already in the country, it is already in the West, but we are not thinking about it. So that's why the question is where this 127 million pad goes. They go. This goes. No one. It goes to the dispose openly. It's buried underground, born in the open, disposed in landfill with other waste. So these are we found these are things. So we thought that we should find if you want to achieve zero waste, we should find the solution of this waste as per. So we had studied. Then we had studied that what type of pads are available here. So we see that there are different single-use products, multi-use products. There are tampons, pads, cloth pads, coughs. So we have analyzed each type of pads, each type of products, and and we make a display out of it, and we did a lifespan study of those things. So there are different lifespans. Some is 8 to 9 years to decompose. There are compostable sanitary pads, so maybe 3 to 6 months. Multiple use, maybe 1 to 10 years. It varies. So we have to find a good solution for this. That's what our challenge is. And then said how they select these pads, because the question is the consumers, the girls and women who are using these pads, what they think. They think about comfortability first. They think about price. They think about brand. They think of fragrance. But while buying these pads, I don't think anyone is thinking about how to dispose these pads when they get back to home after use. Anyone is thinking about what does this pad make environment issues. No one think about that. So this is the things where we have to make the behavioral change of the users. So that's how our research was focused. What we did was we developed a vermicomposting study. We made in a table. So we put the sawdust, we put the used tea leaves, and that is very important for the vermicomposting. And we took the pads and we used the fresh blood but expired blood for to make the reality. To the reality, 5 ml blood we put in each pad, and that gives us like that shows us the real pad scenario but then we put in the tray, and then we put the vegetables, we cover it by other compostable things. Then we weighed the vermi, and then that vermi we keep in the tray. Then we hold this tray. All this stand was done about 6 types of tray was there. All are filled with the different type of pads which we got to study in the market, which we got from the market. And this clearly shows that it is not the full research. This is just the first phase of research. It was conducted with the help of GIZ, of course.
Sorry, I think there is a technical error with the connectivity with Mahesh, unfortunately. So I think we'll just see whether he can reconnect back. Okay.
Yes, I'm getting back.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, there was some problem with the internet. Yeah, now it's okay. So I would like to share it again. Screen. I don't know where I am now. Here. So you can see like these products are, we see the out the after 21 week is a paragraph. So among this is the green means this is all are so-called they say that this is degradable degradable sanitary pads. So you see that these are degradable actually, because very bad cotton which is used for the maternity use. These are pads. These all are degradable, and this is a pad which is made of pine wood pulp, also degradable, but they have some problem with the back seat, which is they call it bioplastic. It takes some more time. And it's another pad is Padman. They have a cotton pulp, but they have a problem. They have a sap. Sap is a super absorbent polymer which stays long time and it doesn't degrade. So in the same way in the second phase we are talking about blue is a reusable pad. Reusable pad, we can see traditional cloth, used cloth, cotton cloth, which is reusable. It also goes very well. The Vermi like very much these pads as cotton, and the commercial cloth with chemical dye, it is not so much degradable. So every cloth is also not degradable. We see that a lot of people are using. They are saying that we are doing reusable pads, but it's not degradable. Somehow there's a chemical dye like that, and the natural like local cotton of Nepal and natural organic dye was a very good pad, which has only the silk thread was remain. Everything was gone. So another is microfiber. It was also in India. It's developed by Denmark, but it is reusable, but it is not degradable. So it is still a waste. Is there. So and the orange is the commercial pad with the regular with plastic with sap, and those are different. I don't want, we don't want to put a brand here. We know what brands are there. Those are totally not degradable. You can see all these are waste. And red is much problem because we did a study about all this pad with the health issue also. We have a publication on that. And that says that commercial pad with ultra thin, but also plastic with sap, and it also is bad for the environment. And also same thing with another brand, also have a bad, not so good. They all are as well. So these are the plastic still staying in the environment. So that were our things. So can you put movie Trace? Trace, can you? I would like to share you a movie about the how it was done. It's a very short movie, it's not long. So it remains only thread is remaining. So all cotton is gone in 21 weeks. Yeah. So I think I have to do it. Where is that? Where I am here? Yes. So so this shows that there is a possibility of promoting the composting for the sanitary pads, but we have to make sure that what happened? Screen share. So we have to make sure that. So we have to think about the encourage of cyclic use of resources and set initiative to stop wasting. So that means we have to, in hierarchy, we have to think about that, and we have to make the change of behavior. That's the most important thing in that. So if you make change of behavior now, already a lot of girls, young girls are already thinking about it. That we get to know that they want to have more and reusable pads, and they are more about the concern about environment. So we have to keep these things going on so that we can change whole female community to use the proper environment friendly pads, which will be is available in the market in some places, and we have to promote these things in overall so that to achieve zero waste. That's the finding. So this is not the final research. Yes, our final research is still due because due to COVID-19 we have not been able to do the third phase of research, that is the real life scenario, which is planning in a nursing institution, but that was just postponed due to COVID-19. I hope in near future we'll do a last phase of final research on the real life scenario. That means we are going to use the real used pads in the vermicomposting to see whether these are feasible or not. So that is still due is pending, but we will do it and get back to you about what the result will be again in maybe after some time. So this is our things, and I think if you want to find us, there is our address, and we want to thank you everyone to listening us. And this is our whole team for zero waste, which we are working. And this is a small team, but we are trying to make whole country zero waste in some period of time. That's our goal. So someday we will see. We still have to work more on the cities, and Satyarupa ji has shared very important things which we want to learn from her, and we have the opportunity to share each other again. We have to make our whole world zero waste. So we have a zero waste Himalayas. So we have to work all together and make it our planet a zero waste planet, and make our environment safer, and make our green growth. And thank you very much, Shibu, for the time. And I'm sorry for interruption due to some technical errors. And thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Trish and Sonia for organizing all these things. And I hope you enjoy our talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahesh, for your insight and this kind of perspective and the kind of efforts your team has put in. So I think our appreciation goes for the team HECAF360. And I think after just going through your presentation, I feel that you are going to be the next Padman in this Indian subcontinent, who is so much working on the kind of ideas. Yes, I think
this is a pad group, not Padman. We have a group.
Okay, pad group. Right. I think, actually, this is something which is one of the major concern for all the cities. So I think we have the two presentations over. If you just look at these two presentations, Satyarupa was just focusing more on kind of systems, like a system, getting a system institutionalized, and she was trying to come up with a kind of a toolkit that will help a decision maker maybe a community organizer to create a system, to institutionalize it and to internalize it. That is very important. Like creating infrastructure is very easy, and just printing education materials is very easy, but getting them institutionalized and internalized is a different game. And I think that manual or that toolkit actually is going to be one of the like a major tool in this area. I think maybe people can utilize it. I won't suggest people to like maybe even Satyarupa won't say that to replicate it, but I think you just go through that toolkit and you just stop at the questions why it happened, and then you ask the same question to your neighborhood or the place where you are working. So customize it and then rebuild. So anyway, there is a method has been created, very beautifully done. So that is the one. So that manual is a result of working on zero waste for a long time in one mega city. And to the other end, where our friend Mahesh, who was also working on creating systems and implementing projects on zero waste. Like he was very much focused on biomedical waste management in the hospital sector or the healthcare sector, and then he added one more focus to it by working on zero waste systems. And while started like when he started working on zero waste, he also identified the pads, sanitary pads as a kind of an issue, and he was trying it. So both these organizations, one from Nepal and one from India, both these organizations or their team were working on zero waste, creating zero waste systems, and they addressed a particular challenge, one institutional challenge, one on a material or a kind of a typical waste material, a product, a kind of a challenge. So this is, they just explain their experiences and they are open for questions. So before like getting this open, I will just start with a question, of course, Satyarupa first. Uh, like my question to Satyarupa, like there are questions in the chat box as well. So I'll just use this opportunity, like being a kind of a moderator, I will use that advantage to ask the first question. See, the technology of composting is out there, right? You just go around Asia, there are these technologies available, and they are open source, and anyone can do this. Or even segregation for that matter. See, the segregation guidelines, flyers, things are there. And then what exactly made you think to develop this toolkit and why it is important? So that's what I want to know. See, all these things are there, people know it, but it is not happening. And what made you to think to develop this toolkit in that part? Like this is something very useful when it came up, but can you just give us the kind of a situation where you started thinking about it? Satyarupa, please.
Satyarupa got disconnected.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe. Okay, then I will be just asking a question to Mahesh. See, I think Mahesh have explained the magnitude of the problem. Like, for example, in Indian subcontinent, it forms around 8% of municipal solid waste is uh, sanitary napkins. I think more than something more than 8%. So that comes on an average. And most of the places like in cities, they are like people are asked to just burn it in their courtyard or on the rooftop, or you just dump it somewhere, or in places it also ends up in landfills. And the proliferation of modern sanitary napkins, if you look at that the market of sanitary napkins, it is a kind of a perfect perfect competition system where you cannot even delineate from one sanitary napkin if there is no label, because almost every single product looks alike, the features are same, and the price are also like same. The only thing change is that the color of the package or the kind of wordings on that package. So when you look at these modern sanitary napkins, which doesn't work, like what your experience from Mahesh like experience, it doesn't work with vermicomposting or for other biological process. So can you just give us an information about what are they made up of, these modern artificial sanitary napkins? What are they made up of? That is my first question. And second question is, have you done any test of this vermicompost for the presence of chemicals from the products which you did for composting? Maheshji.
Thank you, Shivu. And actually, the sanitary pads are mostly the inside. There will be mostly they have a different type of pulps, like the cotton pulps or cotton something somewhere. And but outer part is most of them are plastics, which is not degradable. And more on that is that they put the sap, which makes the even health of the user is in risk. That's another issue. We did see that also on the risks of the to the user, and we found that most of these commercial pads are very high risk to the user, with some cancer things. We did some literature review globally, and we found very high risk in this thing. So having said that, it has to be shifted. The manufacturing should shift. Think about these things, and main thing that not all manufacturers write what is inside. That's another issue we found, that they just want to look at nice, thin, fancy things only, but not they don't write what is inside. There are a lot of chemicals has been used inside. We are trying to maybe we will be publishing soon the literature what we did, the document really soon. We found that almost all type of pad available in our market are in high risk of the human health. This is one issue we found. Next question is that you asked about. Next question will be, I forgot the next question, Sibu.
The presence of chemicals in the compost.
Exactly. That we have not done yet, because we are waiting for our third research where we are going to real life scenario. So that we are going to test it. Now there is no because there is no menstrual blood inside the pad. When you do menstrual blood inside the pad, then we will have a more accurate data we get. So that we are going to do that done after in the real life scenario when we do it in the real life.
I think we lost Mahesh for a while because of that fluctuations in the net connectivity. I think there were a couple of questions directed for Mahesh as well as for Satyarupa on the chat box. One of the question was about what happens to that plastic, whether it get degraded too. I think for this timeline, let me, from my experience, I think I found I have seen a couple of people doing the same kind of experiments in India as well. The plastics doesn't get degraded. It get into smaller, like sometimes it gets into smaller pieces, but it stays as plastic pieces. And this doesn't go with the compost. And you have to sieve out that plastic in the end, like after the composting, after the vermicomposting process, you have to sieve, like you have to use a kind of a fine sieve, like a kind of a filter to sieve all these plastics and other lumps outside that thing. That is one issue. But again, sieving out doesn't make sense because it is already mixed, and the leachates, the leaking is a kind of an issue.
So I want to add one thing also.
Yeah, okay. Mahesh is back. Okay, please, Mahesh.
Yeah. So I want to add that in these pads there are a lot. They put this super absorber polymer so that you can absorb the blood for longer time, and so that also another problem, because these polymers are plastics are in microplastics are there for long time in there. So we did a test of this. With a pad, these pads are super absorbent polymers, and we found that almost all pads are using super absorbent polymers. So now recently there was a pad developed in Mumbai. It's called Anandi pad. I think they are using the pulp of this. The now the pads could be made of the banana pulp, the pine wood pulp. There are a lot of water hyacinth. There are a lot of things that has been developed. But now the pad made in India is a pine wood pulp, which has a bio. They put the biopolymer. That means, and also the bioplastics. That's what they are using. They also get certified, and we are working with them closely now to see what kind of things we can change and bring a good product to the environment friendly product we can get in the market. That is our mission. So we are closely working with the Anandi group in Mumbai, and we are very closely working on that, and we are bringing their technology also inside the country and seeing. And there, we are one of the organizations already had manufactured it, and it is very good. So that way we are bringing changing in that. But this one company is not sufficient. We have to make all these companies aware that we have to make it plastic free sanitary pad. That is one thing. And also for your information, we have been successful now. We have made a Nepal national standard on the sanitary pad, which is purely based on the biodegradable pads only. So there is also we got a very good support from the government of Bureau of Standard of Nepal, and we are one of the technical advisory member of that and that standard committee, and we pushed them that there should be no plastic in the sanitary pad. So that was the standard already made in Nepal also. So this is another success we have with the pad. So we are trying to avoid the plastics and making away the plastic in some way, in the policy way, in the standard way, and the implementation way. Now another our campaign should be to make for zero waste campaign. We have to make these ladies, the girls who are using it, we have to make them a behavioral change on this, and that will be another chapter we have to open soon. Thank you.
Okay. Mahesh ji, there was a question for you from the one of the participant. Like, have you vermicomposted with those biodegradable pads? That was one question. And there is one concern about, like, even with the pads with plastics, when you compost it, the plastic is not getting decomposed, but it remains in the form of microplastics.
Yes.
Like how we will address this issue. So there are two questions: one about the microplastic issue from the plastics, and the second is
the
on
idea.
vermicomposting of biodegradable.
We did a biodegradable pad. That's why we are saying that there is a possibility of developing a biodegradable compostable pads. We call it compostable pads. That is a possibility. But we have to do a campaign. We have to fight for this, of course. But while talking about this, the other all pads, we don't want to do the vermicompostable all of the commercial pads now anymore, because they all contain plastics. We do not suggest to do the vermicomposting or those pads, but that will be the plastic goes inside the farming land. That we don't want to do that. We want to do only the compostable pad to the composting things, not other pad. This is beginning of the research. So we did all type of waste available in the country to see which is to show which is good, which is getting composted, which is not getting composted. Now we are clear. These pads which are available in the market is not compostable. So we are not going to do any more those pads. We are not recommending anyone to do those. They all are the plastic. It will go to so that's our reason. So we have to focus now to narrow down to the compostable pads. There are a few pads are saying they are compostable. So that's what we are looking for. So we found one is the Anandi pad from Mumbai, which they are doing. They have a certification, and I think they are good at the moment. And we are doing also doing compostable. We are also doing the composting of those pads already. We will get results soon. So we are now bringing out, segregating the compostable pad and non-compostable pad. And for non-compostable pad, we will say these are the enemies of zero waste. These are the friends of zero waste. That's how we are going to segregate. And we are at that way we are going to do the campaign to the youth, to the all users.
Thank you, Mahesh. I have one more question here. This is about, like, as a person who have worked on managing healthcare waste. see, when it comes to sanitary pads, it's again it got a body fluid, and like just putting them for vermicomposting. You have any like health concerns? Do we want to disinfect before sending it to a vermicompost, or should we can do directly? So what is your take on this?
No, my understanding is we have not much. There is not much literature available at the moment. But my understanding, my study shows that if you give this pad to the vermi, we found that these vermi are getting more healthier due to hormone you get in the pad. So we are not going to do autoclave first and give it to the vermi. So we have to do direct vermi first, and then we have to do the testing. How does it make sense? So that is our strategy now. So we have, when we do real life scenario, we'll do direct and see what changes we can bring it. That's our idea. So we'll see on that. Because not so if you do autoclaving, if you are doing at home, it's not possible to do autoclaving. So we are out thinking about it should be simplest things. You can put in a flower pot and just do a compost of a sanitary pad. There's no problem. Anyone can put their flower pot and put the composting over there and just do the composting. Very simple way. So we have to think about from household to school and colleges and any other models. This vermicomposting project was initiated actually in a school project, our school project, where we are doing a study on the school, zero waste school. We found that many schools are throwing their sanitary pads in the backyard of the toilet, in the windows, in the dump outside, in the school ground, and dogs are carrying it. That's what we found during the study of this project under GIZ. So that's how we are trying to find a solution for the schools now. This is the ways to make our schools zero waste. We have to find a solution for the pads. That's our main mission. So after we do this research, then we can say schools, please do this, do this. You can advise them to do this, and they will be much happy to do this under the zero waste project. That is one of the attractions for the schools to have a zero waste programs.
Okay, okay. Mahesh, and there is one more, actually, it's a kind of a request from our friend in Himalayas, Gurumji. So he was asking, have you done any kind of experiments with diapers? Because that is also equally.
That is our second project.
Second. And
not
okay.
now, because first this one.
Okay, all right, okay. And with this COVID scenario, see, there is a kind of a panic among people about hygiene, health, kind of stuff. And when it comes to like managing these products, especially sanitary napkins, when we ask people to do compost, are you like, do you think that this is going to be like that receptive in the community for that sake, or how we will manage it, how we will convince them about the kind of a safety part?
To whom? Yeah, that safety is almost every now needed. Even you have to go out of the house, you have to have a safety. So safety is you have to wear your minimum PPE. That means mask and gloves is minimum to do when do you do this. And I don't think other things you need to do that. And it is a very simple thing. It is just a yeah. So that's the minimum thing you have to safety about that.
There is one more question for you. I think people are just getting more interested on your talk. Women have to switch over to the like kind of a zero waste menstrual products, but that will take some time. Okay, and during that process, we still have these commercial pads which are non-biodegradable. And what is the best way to treat these non-biodegradable pads?
The one solution is a landfill, which we have to be same for that. There's the only way that is what we didn't wanted to do that. That's why this is the only solution to send to landfill. There is no other way I see, because yeah, this is the only thing, and this is what happening now all over the world. And not only in our countries, all over the world is having the so now all the girls and women who are using this, we have to think a second thought. Am I doing right? Am I selecting a correct product? Am I doing right? So maybe best thing to use will be cop now. It is silicon. Silicon could be easily done. But the question is whether reusable pads or silicons You need to have some other things like should be a wash facility, there should be warm water to make disinfect, all this. But that is not possible for a small school. They couldn't manage that. So for that thing, we need to have a single-use compostable pads. We have to promote. For other who have a facility, you can use the imagine the reusable pads or the silicon things or silicon crops. All these are available in the market, but you need to have an extra precaution for that. You need to have warm water, all this, the soap. But those are things are not available in the normal school environment. Even they don't have a water to drink, so they cannot afford to wash the reusable pads or silicon crops in that. So there, for that purpose, we need to promote the single-use pads only. Other things, you can use the reusable pads, no problem for that.
Okay, and there is one question from Daru Setiorini. The question was that how big should be the facility, or just to manage this pad in a kind of a vermicompost unit? What should be the kind of the number of worms needed to make it more effective?
In our study, it shows that around 100 grams of the vermi will be sufficient to decompose one pad for 3 months, like that, 3 to 4 months. Yeah, that is our study, but it's still not final one. But we have to do more on that.
Thank you, Maheshji, and I think Satyarupa is back. Satyarupa, can you hear me right now? Are you ready for taking questions?
Yes, yes. Sorry about that.
All right. Okay. So I was asking my first question to you, and by that time we lost you. So that the question was that the technology of composting, or that the methods of segregation of waste, or even recycling, it is all there out there. It is open source, and anyone can do this. But for some reasons, it is not happening. So that is a situation. So then, what exactly made you think to develop this toolkit, and why it is important? So that is my question, and there are other questions waiting in the chat box as well. Sure. Over to you.
So the thing is that CAG and other organizations have already been looking at waste and waste workers from multiple perspectives. Of course, from a human rights and justice perspective, but we've also been doing a lot of the financial analysis with respect to how much Chennai government spends on waste management. A piece of research that we had done in 2016-17 based on the budget that the Chennai Corporation was publishing, plus on some right to information requests that we had filed, because the budget actually doesn't give the kind of line items that we need to make that sort of an analysis. We actually found that Chennai was spending 20% of its revenue budget on solid waste management, which translates to approximately 5,000 rupees per household per year. And this is, if you really look at the household amount, it doesn't seem like much, but 20% or 1/5 of a city government's budget going into waste management, which is only to collect, transport, and dispose in a landfill. To spend that kind of money is actually horrifying. And I mean, a lot of developing cities, developing world cities actually face a whole lot of other problems, and we could have done a lot more with this money. In addition to this, in 2016, 2017, the government announced that it was going to spend another 1,300 crore rupees. I'm sorry, I'm not translating this into dollars. It was going to spend it on building 2 incinerators. Now, for someone like me and for a lot of other people who work on issues of homelessness or issues of slum, access to water and sanitation, things that are lead to a high mortality rate in countries like India, spending this kind of money on waste management was actually criminal waste of money. And this really prompted us to actually make a much stronger case to the city government that switching to zero waste systems not only would allow us to reduce our financial burden, it could also allow a lot of wards to actually earn revenue from sale of compost, reduction in financial expenditure on cooking fuel. And the other savings comes in the form of transporting the waste, right? So transporting the waste literally is a financial cost, but also the emissions, and then the emissions from waste lying at in the landfill. Now, the thing that actually changed a lot of decision making in Chennai was the 2015 floods. So waste actually contributed to a large part of the impact, and I think this really played a big role in helping decision makers at the state and city government level to understand that we really needed to switch to a different way of managing waste. For households, it is difficult for us to challenge the resistance, and a lot of communication is actually necessary. We used a lot of social media, of course, but we also leveraged the ongoing city government's effort to do door-to-door communication. So there are these animators that have been provided per ward under the Swachh Bharat mission, and they are supposed to visit about 200 households a day. And so we designed these posters on how to segregate, which was very simple. We actually said, we actually switched the messaging. We didn't say segregate your waste. We actually just said don't mix your waste, because you don't keep your, you don't keep your laptop in your fridge. You don't keep shoes in the bathroom. So why don't you put your waste in the proper place? That was basically the messaging that we used. And the first 5 months, sorry, we actually saw 30% reduction in organic waste going to landfills. And so I think that messaging, the kind of messaging, but also who was giving the message was very important. The commissioner actually was very, very, he was very insistent that people had to do composting at home. And he would keep making these public statements on how the government was going to make it mandatory, like Tamil Nadu government had made rainwater harvesting mandatory. So every building is supposed to harvest its own rainwater. And so the commissioner kept announcing that, it was going to be mandatory for residents. And what he actually did was put out a notification that bulk waste generators were actually mandated, and he gave them 3 months notice. And so, using combination of the solid waste management rules, as well as the authority of the city government to create additional rules, as well as partnering with local residents, as well as CAG, I think really helped shape the, the public discourse on waste and waste management. And, the fact that it's really not complicated. And so this is what is reflected in the toolkit, that it's not complicated. We have so many options, from something that takes a square foot to much larger size. You have all the options. We have a lot of detailed posters as well. And then we actually created a WhatsApp group where we could do troubleshooting for residents. So we had all of these options, but the toolkit really is to give everybody the broad picture of what the overall roadmap is for the city and what they can choose, So it's really providing a menu of options to ward officials as well as citizens.
Thank you, Satyarupa. I think there are the 2 points struck me is one, don't mix your waste, that kind of a campaign. That makes sense and that is logical. It's actually wasteful to ask people to mix your waste and then segregate it. So rather you just prevent mixing the waste. And the second point is that options. See, people love options. If you say that, okay, you just do this, that is a kind of a fastest way of doing things. You are like giving no options for people. And the toolkit actually provides for options so that it will fit. See, waste is heterogeneous. People are also heterogeneous. So it's difficult to have a one size for all. So we have to have a kind of a like a maximum number of options, but all these options should be in a way connecting to the ideals and principles of zero waste. So these are the two major things which I learned from her speech. And there are two more questions for Satyarupa, one from Vaibhav. He was just asking what is about what is your thought about having a reject category, like when you do a kind of a cleanup at home, there are Some are compostable, some are recyclable, and there are some we don't know what to do with it. So what about having that kind of a category, and how we will manage? So that is one. And there is one more question, so that you can combine these questions together. It's all about financial sustainability in terms of the user fees collection and operational cost. So maybe you can start from the sustainability part, because you were talking about that sustainability part and the numbers were in the upfront. So that, can you just start with that financial sustainability and fees collection and operational cost, and then just share your thoughts on reject.
Right. So in terms of the finances, like I said, our analysis from the budget, the city government budget, actually showed that the city was already spending this kind of money on waste management. And from our calculations, it actually does not need additional funds. What it was spending was actually enough to switch to a zero waste system. In fact, actually, there could be additional source of revenue that emanate from having managed the waste, right? So selling recyclables to scrap shops and other recyclers, as well as compost. So one thing that we did suggest to the commissioner was to sell compost to the agriculture and the horticulture departments in the city. And the agriculture department actually would buy it and supply it to farmers. Now, this actually came, it's very interesting that Shibu is the moderator, because he's actually a guru. And I think he's the guru for a lot of Gaia India members here. So this was one of the things that he had suggested that we do, was to actually map the stakeholders who would be interested in some of these materials. And one of those were farmers. So farmers can actually pick up the compost. And one thing that they suggested was allow them to pick it up for free. But the city government decided to sell it to the agriculture department, thus making some revenue. So financial sustainability in that sense, within the existing expenses, one actually finds that it's possible to set up a zero waste system and save money. The other is the expenses that we are actually not calculating, which is saving on healthcare costs for a city like Chennai, where waste actually does enter our stormwater drains and our rivers, and to clean up the rivers, etc., is very, very expensive for us. Those are a lot of savings, which typically do not get calculated in the city government budget. Of course, public health expenditure does reduce. And one of the most interesting pieces of research that we actually did was, under the solid waste management rules, city governments are authorized or are allowed to actually calculate waste money from companies that are selling products in their cities. So I think some of you, like the Zero Waste Himalaya crew that's on the call, will recollect that we had done a brand audit in 2018. Using that data, just top 20% of the polluters, we had calculated the expenses or the financial liability of just the top 20 businesses. And we found that they would actually owe Chennai government, only for the year of 2018-19, $15 million US, right? And we're talking about a huge amount of money that, if we leverage the polluter pays and the extended producer responsibility principles that are already there in our solid waste management rules, we actually will find that the city will be able to penalize the polluters, but also cross-subsidize a lot of its other expenses. So there are all of these sources within the waste management category, as well as other savings that come from sectoral savings that would accrue to the city. And we don't actually have to levy additional user fees for this. There is actually a school of thought that says that, if people are made to pay for these additional services, then, they're more, they're more committed perhaps to the outcome. I think as residents of, our cities, we are already paying. We are already paying for, property taxes, etc. And I don't think that it changes a lot of things in the way in what citizens choose to do, especially not with waste. So for example, the waste management currently does come from the property taxes that we already pay. That has not encouraged people to pay to segregate their waste or manage it better. But the other thing is that there seems to be then no end to all the kinds of fees, user fees that we can levy. And I think accountability of the institution then gets that much more complicated for residents. It did get complicated for somebody like me who's already looking at city budgets year on year. These sort of things do get complicated, but also the other side is there is a resistance to paying additional fees when cities don't deliver on public services. And I think this is something that a lot of us are already experiencing, right? We are complaining about the quality of the water, or the quality of our roads, the power failures. All of these are things that we already pay for. So there seems to be no really valid, reasoning that paying the user fee will improve services. Paying the user fee could contribute to the expenses, but like I said, I don't think a city like Chennai needs it. Plus, a lot of the other cities in India can actually raise this money from the financial liability of businesses. And I think this is a very underused aspect of the solid waste management rules. And I think we really need to look at business accountability or corporate accountability towards waste. The other question on rejects, I think this is something that we did go back and forth on. For the project and for the first rollout of the Zero Waste Chennai initiative, we suggested
that was on rejects, and we have just 1 minute.
Yeah, we suggested that it should go with the daily sort of sanitary waste. So we basically said biodegradable waste or organics, non-biodegradable waste, and then the other rejects. Because at this point, like Mahesh ji was saying, even autoclaving, even at the city level, is actually not working. So if it is going to get landfilled, then we have suggested that. And I think we would wait for other people to suggest if there's some other way to manage rejects.
Thank you, Mahesh ji and Satyarupa, for wonderful sharing. And I think I have lot more questions actually, and there are people asking questions on the chat box as well. But unfortunately, we don't have time. But don't worry about it. I think all participants, please go to Gaia Asia Pacific Facebook page, where this live video is there. You can just comment your questions so that I think Satyarupa or Mahesh ji won't mind to answer your questions on that Facebook, or even we will collect that questions and get the answers for you. One, and thank you for this time. Thank you for your patience, and this is really interesting. And I thank all the participants and my colleagues in Gaia Asia Pacific, Trish and Sonia, who are coordinating this. So I am just handing it over to Trish to conclude this session. And thank you all once again.
Thank you, Shibu. Thank you, Mahesh, and thank you, Satyarupa. Those are wonderful insights. And again, thank you everyone for attending our webinar, Learn by the Nuggets. Also, if you have any projects or current activities that you would like us to amplify, please feel free to message me or Sonia. I'll share with you our email addresses after this. And yes, also stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. We'll be sharing this in our social media platforms as well as our listservs. And also feel free to share this to your respective organizations, to individuals, or I guess friends who are interested in attending this webinar. Again, thank you all.
Thank you very much.